just want to talk about, some of the stuff that we all know happens, but we definitely don't do enough about. If you know what I mean, we've got lots of delays and lots of things that are causing us to sit as truck drivers, and causing operations folks to have giant headaches and exception management because of things that are out of our control, right? So, how many drivers do I have sitting here? One, two, thank you. Any more drivers? Just two of you? Hey, we're talking about detention time, talking about dwell, how we gonna fix it. And I'd love to know from a driver's perspective. I'm also a driver. I drove about 1 million miles in the early 2000s, and have a lot of stories and a lot of like wild stats around how long I've sat. So how many of you operations folks in here? You guys operation folks, anybody? That's dealing with the ops day to day? No? Here to shop for trucks? Yeah? Because I was going to make a conversation out of it if we can get some people over here that have dealt with it, especially. You're back there, what's your name? Chad. Nice to meet you, Chad. Blake. So what's the longest you've sat in detention in your career? Okay, 12 hours, is that what I heard? So Chad has sat 12 hours to wait on a load to be unloaded or loaded. This is not terribly uncommon. 12 hours is it's up there, but it's not uncommon. A lot of times this is a 2-hour average, according to ATRI. It's a 2-hour wait to get your freight transferred on and off of a trailer. But it is also a situation where we're chasing appointments. So what we don't talk about is the time that we have to get to the town we're going to deliver and wait for that appointment. And that's what we call dwell time. That's what we call dwell time. Is kind of a term that is thrown around a bunch of different ways, but we look at it as any time that's spent not producing when we could produce, right? We want to produce with these trucks, and oftentimes we are constrained if we can't drop and hook. So drop and hook being the magic solution to this in a lot of ways, and being something that works really well where it's provided. But the problem with the drop and hook situation right now is it's only provided in places that will contract it and pay for that yard spotter to be there, and or the carriers that'll pay for their trailers to be there. And it's not something that is spread to the whole entire industry. It's more just the enterprise or high volume locations. So what we're trying to do with NoDwell is we're actually building technology that's going to make it to where you can share spotter trucks in an industrial park, right? And provide drop and hook capability for all of the truckload shippers in the area without them having to pay for the truck for the full entire year, which is, again, a lot of times why they're not doing it. So a little bit about me real quick, and hopefully we can get some more people to come sit down. But I've been 21 years in the industry. In 2004, I experienced my first drop and hook as a driver, and I was like, why is this not happening everywhere? This is a great solution to the otherwise, I was pulling reefer at the time. So for those of you who are familiar with that, the wait time is very real in reefer. So I've always wondered why it wasn't there, why it wasn't provided for more, at more places. And there's some obvious reasons, right? Sometimes they don't have the land, sometimes they don't have the budget, the volume. But a lot of times you wouldn't. The people that are inside these warehouses, that they're warehousemen, they're manufacturers. They're not trucking efficiency gurus. So they're not really thinking about it, is what we've learned as we've gone and talked to these major companies that don't do this. So one of the things we were going to talk about with the group was ways in which we can reverse engineer a drop and hook for ourselves, right? So mega carriers or people that have a lot of volume, carriers that have a lot of volume in an area typically have city trucks that run around, do their pickup and delivery. And that's something that works. But again, you're chasing a metric you have to hit before you can start doing that. And most of us are small. Most of us are small 1, 2, 3, 5 truck companies that can't do that on our own anywhere. So we're stuck with this live plan that's just super backwards. Does anybody want to guess how many hours every single day? Now we have e-log data, right, since 2018. We got a lot of good data to play with to know this. How many hours every single day a driver still has available when they get stuck waiting to do the next transfer of goods process? Anybody want to guess? Okay, I'll tell you. 30% of their day on average isn't used. It's just wasted. And it's oftentimes because they're showing up today, right now, for tomorrow morning's delivery or whatnot. And so they can't use the hours if they can't drop hook and keep going. So that's a massive number. Can you imagine as drivers, especially as drivers, If you could get that 30% down the road and actually start making some money doing that, and actually use the hours you're away from home, use the hours that you're committed to doing this job for actual productivity, instead of finding something to do with 16 hours of time until your appointment comes. These are things that we all have to really think about ways to solve, because a lot of it's out of our control. A lot of it's very much out of our control. So what I like to talk about, I do wish there was some more drivers sitting here, because the conversation would be a lot better if we could chat about it a bit. But what we've done, we're a small carrier. We do yard management, spotting services, right, as a third party. So we're really familiar with this game. And then we do some short haul trucking as well. And that kind of thing is ripe for exception management problems, because you're doing 2 truckloads a day, for example, which gives us a lot of chance for this to happen. And what we've learned is it's a lot about, just like life, a lot about mindset. It's a lot about how we walk into something, how we show up to the shipping clerk, and how we introduce ourselves to them. Are we telling them, are our drivers saying to them, I got all these problems and how long are you going to be? Hurry up. Are they coming in like that? Are they coming in with a different approach and realizing that it's not that person's issue, that this place takes forever, or that you've been here for a long time? Are they actually talking to those folks like they're human and saying to them, hey, I'm not going to hold you to this. How long might this take? Some data that we need when we're stuck and usually are just sitting outside waiting on that green light, on the side of the building. So on your 12-hour sit, do you remember what that was for? What kind of freight? Oh, yeah? Okay. Was it reefer? Dry? But it was at the pickup or delivering to Walmart? Really? Long time ago? Okay. So, fair point. I mean, Walmart, I would actually give props to since then. You know what they are is they're consistent. They're consistent 2 and 3 hours, but they're consistent about you can't be there early. They're consistent about, what's that? 5 hours? What kind of freight? 5 hours? Yeah. This is a great example of what we have to fix. What we have to fix. So this is a Walmart location you go to quite often, or just a one-time deal? Okay. Harrisonville or Ottawa or? Okay. Okay. So yeah, these facilities are just saying it's going to be 5 hours, just deal. Yeah, minimum 5 hours. So that's a very interesting one. Walmart is normally, because they do pay detention after 2, so they're normally very, very predictable. They're not the way we want them, but they're predictable because they've got that 2-hour thing. They know you can't be on site more than an hour early at most of them. But then there's the fact that you can't change your appointment with them, right? That's what they claim. But this is what I mean by the mindset. Like if we look outside the box and we learn, if you're going to that place a lot, maybe get that clerk's number or email or something and just say, hey, I'm not going to abuse this, but is there any chance I could let you know I'm coming in, and do something to speed this up? Just anything that you don't think you can do. Most of the time you can. That's a life lesson too in general, but. Oh, wow. Okay. So that's interesting. So does your carrier have another trailer that they could leave there for you to just grab and leave at that point, or is it not like that there? Because that'd be a solution too, is obviously dropping if they're forcing you to drop. But see, Walmart would be a great example of volume, right? And they usually have the property to take care of this situation, but most of their inbounds are live, right? A lot of their inbound stuff is live unless it's a mega, right? So 5 hours is not something I've heard, but I'm glad you're saying it, because it does exacerbate this conversation out to even the places that got really good at being more consistent, where you could at least predict. You could at least count on, if I have a 2 p.m. Walmart appointment, I'm going to be out of there by 5-ish by the time I rehook and do all the things with the paperwork, all the rigmarole with the lumpers, which I think is automated now. But these are things that, again, my two colleagues that were supposed to be here were one was a Coca-Cola executive for a long time and helped turn around their stuff, which was a really big story that I wanted to share with everyone. That for 7 years he led this logistics side of Coca-Cola in North America, and touted this and went to his leadership that were like, we don't care, money, margin, money, margin. And he's like, no, you're going to get way better everything if you get less carriers to do more drops, to do and be better to them when you get there, and be faster and ready to unload and get the dual loading forklifts. He did a lot of work for Coca-Cola, which is highly respectable in my opinion, that you go to a mega corporation like that and say, we can fix this. You know, we can move this in the way of the carrier and the driver to get better relationships, which gives better rates. As a carrier, if we're rating something and we know it's a ticking time bomb on either end or both, we're going to rate it way higher every time, right? And so this can make freight cheaper. It can definitely make it more efficient, and it's something that, again, just going in and talking to folks where you feel like you're trapped, giving them a little bit of a, like, I'm not asking you to solve my problem for me, but I'm just giving you information that maybe you could give me some information back that will help me get out of here, right? One thing I used to do as a driver is like, should I get in my pajamas and lay down and like plan on being horizontal for a while? And that would make them laugh, just like that. It would make them laugh, and then their guard's down, right? Then they're like, okay, you know what? I will give you an ETA, even though I don't know for sure, but I'll give you something to go on to where you can actually plan and tell your dispatch or tell whoever's in charge, if you're in charge, you can make your plans around what they're able to tell you in those moments where normally they're used to folks that, how long is this going to take, you know? And then it turns into, they come back in an hour and a half when they said 2 hours. What, only 30 more minutes, right? And it's just a over and over the situation that makes these clerks not want to talk about it, right? It makes them not want to even give opportunity to give information. The best one is when they first tell you you're going to park out back until we call you for a door, but then you do that little interaction with them and they see that you're kind and that you're not going to be one of those. You know what? Just go ahead and hit door 6, right? Just go ahead and hit the door. That happened multiple times. Still happens in our company a lot, because we do teach our drivers this kind of mindset where if you go in and you're just kind and not entitled, really. I mean, a lot of times they walk in entitled, and I understand why drivers feel entitled in those moments, because it should not be the way it is. It shouldn't look like this at all. How often are you doing that run? Okay. Yeah, okay. So you're okay. Oh, okay. So seasonal freight. So plants or something? Is it plants? Okay. So seasonal stuff. I mean, so that's another thing. When you take seasonal stuff, you should be getting better rates because it's seasonal. They're getting capacity they don't want all year. It should be a better situation for everybody. And the 5-hour thing, maybe that comes with this seasonal thing because it's that commodity, maybe. So when we know those things going in, this conversation is supposed to be about what we can do about the problem. And knowing that stuff up front, asking all the right questions is definitely part of the game. What do you need us to do? Are you going to make us pick up and take a 500-mile load over 48 hours? Or are you going to let us run 500 miles in 18 hours and get there and get it done, right? And get the freight off and move on to the next load. How many of y'all do drop and hook on a regular basis? You guys, I guess there's not a lot of drivers here yet, so. Because I wonder if anybody has any issues with the drop and hook. If they feel that solution to this problem, which is really the only one we have that's in our face that works pretty good. But I would love to hear exceptions to that. If you're in a situation where the drop and hook isn't efficient for you, but nobody really has any stories from that necessarily. Okay, so you left dry van hauling and got into flatbed hauling because you didn't want to do the drop. Oh, okay. So interesting. How big of a company were you driving for? Okay. Okay, so 200 truck company. His story is drop and hook works, but is annoying from his experience because most of the time he gets to the trailer that he needs to hook, and it hasn't been properly pro-strip inspected or hasn't been communicated to the leadership at the office that there's an issue with it, and so he's got a DOT compliance problem and he can't move anyways. So that's a very interesting one. So I wish we had more drivers because I would love to know if that's common or if that's just an experience from that company because maybe they were a little bit more laxed on their accountability around leaving trailers, for someone else in that kind of way, you know. We as humans, it's our natural tendency to put ourselves first and not think about much else. It's kind of like how we're wired technically for survival. But now we're in a modern society and we can kind of look around and maybe be a little bit more human about it in the aspect of, let's think about when we had this issue, sitting for 4 hours, when you probably thought those 4 hours, 3.5 of them were going to be rolling down the highway, making money, getting places, maybe even getting home. Like, this is the worst one of this whole story, is the one where that kind of stuff happens and it messes your clock up, and you got an event, or even if you just promised mama you're going to be home, whatever it is, those things are affecting drivers every day, causing divorces, causing major problems in life in general, causing disappointed children. There's all these things that come out of this situation that are very, very emotional and very much on a human level. And we believe we can find a way to fix this completely, as long as we can get enough feedback and buy-in on the idea that we can Uber a truck, basically, to make a drop and hook possible anywhere, right? Just everyone could have a city truck like we get an Uber when we need one. That's kind of No-Dwell's plan for the industry. Is we're starting in Kansas City, and we're doing it now in Kansas City under a different entity name, practicing it while we build this technology. But we really want to solve this problem and take what we know works, which is city trucks for big carriers or carriers with a lot of volume in a market, and spotter trucks, at a facility. Both of those, in my belief, could be fractionalized. How many times you have to place that does drop and hook and the spotter's just sitting there, right? They're just not doing anything because they don't have anything to do, and that's fine. But that place has contracted that truck to be there all day, and they're just hanging out for the time that they're not there, right? So that situation could be solved. Say, hey, when it's down here, let's go over to the neighbor that doesn't offer this right now and go let them start offering this plan. So it's working. The general principle is working. So I was just, since my colleagues didn't make it, I'm kind of using this as an opportunity to just have conversation and learn a little bit about the situation there. How many times did you drop and hook? A lot, or just the few times you did, you're like, no, we're not doing this? Okay, quite frequently. And would you say, 50% of the time the trailer was broke, or? Okay, 75% drop and hook. And of those, 40% of the time, you had something else to do than just hook. It was hook and then errand. Hook and then service truck. Hook and then... Yeah. So when you were at the yard for that carrier, same problem? Would you say that was a carrier problem, or more of they didn't realize it when it was a trailer off-site driver problem? Yeah, excellent point. So your point was, when we saw ELDs come in, it made this whole, I'll get it taken care of and leave it right for the next driver, made it exponentially harder to do because of what you lose if you do anything in that 14 hours that is not production down the highway, right? Or getting the freight or giving the freight. That's a really good point. E-logs definitely exacerbated this a lot. But you know who hasn't done anything about it is the warehousing industry and the shipping industry. The shippers and manufacturers, they're not doing anything at all. And we got ATRI doing all these studies, the American Trucking Research Institute doing all these studies on hours of service, on wasted time, on dock time in general. It's literally an average of 2 hours. This whole 2 hours detention thing didn't come out of nowhere. It's the e-logs are telling us the story that it's a 119-minute average as of 2023. That's pretty wild. That's a long time. How long does it take a forklift? What's the fastest you've been unloaded? I think 15, 20 minutes. It could be done, I would say. I don't know if anybody argue that or not, but I feel like that's possible. How many pallets? Was that a truckload? That wasn't a truckload, probably. 3. Yeah. So a 2-stop load. One stop was 10 minutes. The other stop was 20 minutes. You want that load again. You probably take that one again. And they exist. I might argue they could be close to half. that they're yeah, fair point. Really fair point. I don't know that I know much about. Okay, his point is that the warehouses for safety are slowing their forklifts down, right? And so there's maybe it was a 6-8 mile an hour allowance until there was an incident. So now it's a 3 mile an hour allowance because OSHA said or their insurance company said or whoever, and that does change things. And then you take the forklift operator who takes each pallet and puts it away, versus take each pallet and put it right there on the floor. That's a whole nother game that I've never understood, as far as if they're trying to turn trucks. If they got all these trucks parked out on the parking lot or on the street and they're trying to turn trucks quickly, why are they taking this stuff and only, they handle it once. I get that, but it exponentially increases the situation. A lot of the places are learning, do that, have other people take it from stage to put it away. But again, I can't control like what they need on their labor costs and their margins and how they're doing that. And safety is obviously number one by far. But that's something I didn't think about. Right. Yes. Yes. So, yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. It's just whether, yeah. Okay. Are you working in a warehouse? Okay. 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 So this is a place you pick up or deliver from regular enough to know their story? Okay. So he's saying that not only do they take it 150 feet each pallet, they then have to stack them to store them or down stack them to put them on the truck. Another one of those things that, in my opinion, should be done pre. Let's get this done for when the truck gets here. It's bam, 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 and he's out or she's out. Yeah, yeah. So staging loads is huge. Again, we are not going to be able to control the warehouses, but I will. I just want to say with a lot of authority that, and a lot of experience, that if you are kind to them, you go in and you just give them your why. Hey, why I am even asking this question is this. Instead of saying, my company's got me trying to pick up something in 2 hours from now, and they're going to, if I don't make it, I'm going to just making all that. That gets people like, oh, hey, I don't know how much I can help you. It gets them. Yeah, so that's a great carrier. Or if they offered it, that's an amazing shipper, if that's their plan. He says 1 hour. They have a 1 hour thing that they're paying attention after 1 hour, and I think that would be a super fair, band-aid on this solution. Oh, okay, okay. So he's saying this shipper is 1 hour, whatever they can get on the truck, and if they don't get it on the truck, then it's just too bad, too bad, so sad. You put it on the next truck. Okay. Is this just-in-time freight? Is it auto industry or something like that? Okay, yeah. So yes, yeah. So auto freight or just-in-time JIT freight, that's an exception to this conversation probably because they are optimizing to optimize for them, right? So these other places are like, it's going from this DC to this DC to go on a delivery truck at like 3 in the morning. We're not in a hurry, right? So just. Yeah, yeah, right. You're talking about now you're talking about your truck being able to get the line haul done. Talking about speed limiters and yeah, yeah. Speed limiters are a different conversation for them for this. For one, I'm not the expert on that, and for two, that's another safety question of what is safe, what isn't. Fuel mileage, when fuel goes up, that's a thing that a carrier needs to do to watch their bottom line. And yeah. Oh, yeah. We've all been there. He's talking about the drag race that two 68-mile-an-hour trucks have trying to pass each other when one of them's got 43 in the box, the other one's got 36 in the box, and there's just a little bit of difference on the hill to where he gets by, but yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess a side note, this is kind of a point of the driver's got to deal with all that madness the whole time, every mile. Like we really need to figure out how to get their transfer of goods to just happen as fast as it could possibly happen. And again, the conversation is kind of about how can you control it? How can you help yourself? You know, whether it's because we can't change how they're going to do business inside. The feds aren't interested in regulating the warehouse and saying, hey, after 2 hours, you got to pay $300 an hour. Probably wake them up. You know, I imagine it would wake them up if they did that, but that's not their plan. They love regulating us as a carrier. It's their favorite thing. And so we just got to play within those rules until we can fight them. And I think that the best way to do that is take advantage of what you can control and just try to tickle the things that you can't and see if you can't influence them to go away that you need them to go. And something as small as calling before you get there, calling an hour ahead if it's a place that you think that would help. Getting the person's number at the Walmart. She was telling us about the Walmart you guys deliver to in KC area, 5 hours or so almost every time or whatnot. Okay. Yeah. You know, Walmart, that's definitely what Walmart's again, they're predictable. They're predictable in that they're not going to let you in early. They're predictable in that your appointment time is your appointment time. They're predictable in that if you miss this appointment time, you might not get another one for a week. You know, they're predictable in all these ways, which at least they're that. You know, I do have to give them some love for that, for having something instead of just go and hope. You know, there's a lot of these places you go and there's appointment times, but they're not following them. They're just taking people as they come and hurry up, and lumpers are running all over the place, and it's just a mess. So, you know, give as big as Walmart is, you know, giving them some respect that they're at least trying to have some kind of consistent framework. Does the framework work for us as drivers and carriers? Not really. Not really. It almost handcuffs us more. But if we could get the situation where you guys know you're going to be there 18 hours for that appointment, and you had their email or you had their phone number at the Walmart, say, hey, if I get there, what can we do? You might be shocked at what they'd be willing to do on a local level. There's a lot of rumors about Walmart. You can't change it. You can't change it. Well, no, they want to say that. Your carrier wants to say that because they don't want you trying to change appointments behind their back, right? And that's not a way to do business. However, it is doable to move stuff around. So, you know, calling ahead, also just thinking about if there's a whole day of extra time, not what am I going to do with this day, but why don't I call them and see if they'll take it a day early? Why don't I have my dispatch call and see if they'll take it a day early? And this is how we can earn more money around this situation that's otherwise dwell time, otherwise sitting around just waiting for the next thing to happen, right? Again, this is what we teach our drivers. This is what we have seen a ton of data go the right way in, because no one really does this. No one's really saying, hey, we're trying to be more efficient for us, and we're just trying to let you know that we can be available to you for the next 24 hours up until our appointment. And is there any hour in there where you'd like to have our pallets, you know, like to have our freight? And it's really surprised us. Oftentimes, there's ways to get around that for sure. So the last thing that I really want to go over is just the idea of being efficient in your run and knowing when you're going to be somewhere. You know, knowing that stuff is a huge part of your wasted time if you have it. And if you have wasted time, if you have extra time, are you stopping and dilly-dallying and doing this extra stuff and spending more money? Probably. That's what I would do. You know, if I stopped and got out of the truck, I'd probably end up spending more money. Are you doing that, or are you trying to get there and then work on getting that freight off so you can get another load so you can make the money while you're away from home and out, you know? These kind of decisions do make a difference in the bottom line for both the carrier and the driver. And so carriers that have the time, that are staffed properly, you know, should be doing this as well for you. If it's a 600-mile run, there's no reason for that to be more than a day and a quarter at most, right? Most people can do that in a day. And why sit around later, deliver at 1 o'clock in the afternoon instead of 8 in the morning, and then you don't get your pickup till, you know, and then it just rotates out and causes all these issues with dwell and wait times. Any more drivers show up? Is anybody drivers out here? Or trucking ops folks? Driver back there? You have any detention stories? Any delay stories you want to share? No? You good? He said, I'm good. I'm going back here. I'm fine back here. How about you, driver? Okay. Nah? Not a driver for the microphone? Okay. But you've experienced it, yeah? I mean, you've been stuck, yeah. Been stuck a lot, or your trucks are stuck? Okay, so operator, right? I mean, some kind of operations folks. So, you know, this whole problem of everybody's doing what they want to do and not worried about what we need to do, right? We're just, I was supposed to have a bigger panel for this, but it didn't work out. So we're just trying to have a conversation around what you guys might do in a situation to solve the problem. If you've got a delay or a detention that's about to roll into the next load, it's one of those nightmare moments where you're exception managing your face off, trying to get through it, and calling, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and having this driver do this favor when they really shouldn't because they'd be mad. And, what's your, do you guys have any special like sauce on that where when it comes up, either we don't haul the freight or, when it comes up, you do anything special about it? Work for a private carrier. Yeah, there it is. That's huge difference, isn't it? I mean, huge. So private carrier meaning the company that that needs their freight moved has their own trucks to move the freight. Kind of a rare setup. It is common. I mean, Walmart's one of them, for example, but a lot of the places that have enough to move, they can do that if they want to. Most of them don't want to. They don't want to deal with the trucks and the drivers and stuff, but if they do, you get a way better scenario, way better, predictable, more respected, I would say, probably, situation. Are you hauling their freight out to the end user, out to the client? And then bringing freight, anything back in for supply, or you just come back empty? Oh, yeah, hello. Hello, what's that? Right. Because when you don't come back empty, then you're dealing with all this stuff we're talking about, right? They got this random broker load, and we got to go sit at the thing, and it doesn't pick up till tomorrow, and what are we going to do? Kind of moment, yeah. So that's private fleets are definitely a way to go as a driver to go drive for them instead. Is definitely one way to solve the problem. But like I say, we're looking to build some technology to try to solve this problem. Actually, we are building it as we speak. I'm a little behind my own record, but if you can just picture how we use Uber, we're gonna make it to where everyone can get a spotter truck, a shipper or receiver or a distribution spot can get a spotter truck like an Uber, and then a carrier in any market. If any of you are coming to Kansas City for anything, look us up, see if we can help you out before the software is built, because we still can, and find out if it's something that you could do. If you leave a trailer with us, then we can do your city work for you and have everything ready and make it a drop and hook instead of a 18 to 24 hour turnaround. So anybody have any questions? I think with that, I'm probably pretty much done with this chat. So thank you for listening. Thank you for hanging out. And again, my name is Blake Lappin. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's probably the best place to connect with me. And if you want to kind of follow our progress, and we are on a real mission to basically end the live load. Absolutely just end it by bringing the drop and hook to everywhere until we find a better solution, which I don't know if there is one. I don't know if anybody has one, because I don't. It's definitely one that works well. So thank you all for listening. Appreciate you. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your show. Cheers.